Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told out of Voice of Radio, so today we need to talk about a new special energy card. Because I'm going to be honest with you, this is a very good new special energy card. Pokemon over in Japan, they did that thing they do lately, where they said, hey, there's a new special energy coming. And we've kind of seen this before, where they promised something along these lines. Like they said, hey, there's going to be an item card we're reprinting. And then everybody gets really excited, and then it ends up being like Energy Lotto. That's not a random example, that literally happened. They told us they were going to reprint an item card from the past. Everybody got really excited, and then it turned out the reprint was Energy Lotto. And nobody was very excited anymore. Well, they said they were going to give us a new special energy. People decided not to get that excited because actually they're probably going to do what they've done before and it's not going to be that good. And then they went and gave us this. And ladies and gentlemen, if I may be so bold as to say so, I think this might be worth getting a little bit excited about. Now, what we've got here is Jet Energy. Now, I did do the translation here myself, but I did also check with the lovely Antoine Boulet, because this is the more complicated one. So I got this, but I checked with Antoine, because Antoine's better at this than I am. And what it says is, as long as it is attached to a Pokemon, it provides one colourless energy. That, I'll be honest with you could have got from context. If you attach this card from your hand to one of your bench Pokemon, switch that Pokemon with your active. And when I first read this card, I could have sworn we'd seen it before. But we haven't seen this card before. Now, we've seen Warp Energy, which is kind of the reverse of this. Warp Energy is when you attach it to your active, you get to switch to the bench. So it's kind of like a switch out rather than a switch in. And we've seen Cyclone Energy in the past, which makes your opponent switch their active. They get the choice of which one to switch, but they do have to switch. But we've never seen this before. And one thing which needs to be borne in mind, putting this side by side with Warp Energy, this is just better. Like, as far as I'm concerned, this is just way better than Warp Energy. Because you see, the problem with Warp Energy is you're switching, but you need energy on your active Pokemon in order to attack. Or you need active Pokemon with energy to retreat. The problem is you attach the energy, and then you're kind of done. Because now you can't really do anything else. Because you're out the active. So all of a sudden you're not gaining very much. And that's a little bit of a problem. Whereas with Jet Energy here, you attach the energy to your bench Pokemon. It ends up as your active Pokemon, and now it's got energy ready to use. Like, one nice example here will be Comfy. You attach it to Comfy on the bench, it goes into the active. You want to use Comfy to use flower picking, look at the top two cards. One goes in your hand, one goes into the lost zone. But now the huge difference is you've got energy on your active Comfy, which can then be used to retreat that Comfy, and now you've gotten the benefit. And the point is, you've gotten the benefit this turn. Right now, you've gotten the benefit of that Comfy. And I cannot stress quite how good that is. Being able to get into the active right now with the energy required to retreat it, so that you're getting the benefit of all of that right now, is absolutely huge. And that is going to be one of the best options for this. Attaching it so that you can switch into the active and have an energy to retreat right this second. The Mew from Celebrations, we could say the exact same thing. Jump into the active, have the energy you need to retreat right this second. Absolutely beautiful. Mew is a very similar kind of thing, just purely in terms of, just having a Pokemon in the active, which is going to search stuff out. But instead of getting one to your hand, one to the lost zone, Mew looks at the top 6 cards, finds an item card specifically, and that's what goes into your hand. But it'll work the exact same way as Comfy. Get a basic Pokemon into the active that has a retreat cost of 1. And I know that we've got stuff like Beach Court coming, which will reduce the retreat cost of an active Pokemon by 1, basic Pokemon I should say, and that is going to allow you to retreat, blah, blah, blah. But this gets into the active, which you might not be able to do. You know, this will still get you out of the active in the same way that Warp Energy will get you out the active. But the key thing here is, as well as getting out the active and getting to the bench Pokemon you want, you've now got energy on the Pokemon that you want energy on. So it will still do the same thing that Warp Energy will do. The huge difference here is that you've now got energy on the Pokemon that you want energy on, and I cannot stress how good that is. Now, there is also a possibility here that you're going to be good for those kind of Pokemon that you want to switch into the active position to attack. And that's going to be one of the things here. If you can't get a switch, but you want to get into the active spot and you want to attack, this will do it nicely. This will get you in the active with energy attached, ready to attack. The problem here is that it is a single colorless energy, and there aren't that many Pokemon that are going to attack with a single colorless energy. In that regard, it's honestly like a little bit annoying. Just because there aren't that many of them, unfortunately. I mean, to go back to Lost Box as an example, that's one of the top decks around right now. And like I've said, you can use it to get a Comfy into the active with an energy ready to retreat. But you can also use it to get a Comfy out of the active, ready to pop an attacker up. The problem is, if we take a look at Lost Box, I'm not 100% sure which attacker's really going to love this. Like, Sableye is a phenomenal single energy attacker. Lets you drop 12 damage counters any way you like. That's amazing. But it does it for 1 psychic energy. So sure, this will get Comfy out of the active and Sableye into the active, but it's never really going to help you in terms of having a good attacker. We can look at Cramorant, that as long as you've got 4 cards in the Lost Zone, does 110 for 0 energy with the wonderfully named Spit Innocently. But that's for 0 energy. So sure, you can attach to Cramorant to get it into the active, and sure, that will be a nice, retreat option. And as a side note, it will also be a retreat option for Sableye. But essentially, you're using it here purely as a pivot. You're using it to get Comfy out of the active and Sableye or Cramorant into the active. And you're not getting a benefit in terms of being able to attack with the energy, but you are still getting a Sableye and Cramorant into the active with an energy that you can then retreat with. So it's not useless, let's be clear, but it's not as good as it could be. And we can go back in time right now and look at cards like Golisopod GX. I rarely stop thinking about Golisopod GX. This had an amazing attack whereby if you got yourself into the active, then you did 120 as long as you got into the active this turn. And that's rather lovely. And something like this would be amazing. The issue here, and I do think it is a fairly big issue, is that used a single grass energy. And then the problem with that is that this doesn't work. Because this is a colorless energy. And we could do the exact same thing with Hooper. Whereby, and again, these aren't legal at the moment, these are just examples, but Hooper did more if you got into the active this turn. The problem is, Hooper was a darkness energy. Or we go back a little bit further and we look at Zapdos. Exactly the same kind of thing, but that was a single lightning energy. And my point is, although I'm not sure we've got anything along these lines specifically at the moment, I'm also not sure it particularly matters. Because what we've seen time and time again here is that these kind of attacks use a single coloured energy. So I do kind of want it on the record that attacks like this are perfect with this kind of thing, but I also want it on the record that the reality is we're probably not going to have a kind of attacker like this which is going to be able to make the most of it. And I do think that's pretty gosh darned relevant. But even if we're not going to be able to use it too much as an attacker, and let's be clear, I'm not saying we can't use it as an attacker, I'm saying that historically these kind of attacks aren't great with this, I absolutely am saying that as a pivot option, this is phenomenal. And like I've said, to go back to Lost Box as an example, because Lost Box really is a great example here, we can either use it to pivot Comfy into the active with an energy to retreat, or we can use it to pivot comfy out of the active with an energy attached. And maybe it's an energy you can actually attack with, which would be lovely, or maybe it's not. But like I've said, even with stuff like Saberline Cramorant, even if you're not attacking with the energy, still having that energy to use as a pivot option, that's still pretty good, ladies and gentlemen. That's still pretty good. This is a 5 WOSSy card. I'm convinced that this is a 5 WOSSy card. I'm convinced that this is a card that's going to see a huge amount of play, and we are going to be seeing a huge amount of. That's what I think, but I want to know what you think. So let me know in the comment section, would you? Go nuts! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at the WOSSy. That's where we talk Pokemon and card games and Pokemon card games, all kinds of fun things. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts, join a Discord and chat with us, all kinds of fun things. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.